I'm joined here by Martin Stark, who is the head organizer and founder of the World Gay Boxing Championships, and he's coming from Australia to chat with me a little bit, get caught up on everything. The first World Gay Boxing Championships just took place at WorldPride, I believe, as well. So, and there was a multi-year endeavor to lead up to that, and so we're going to catch up and yeah, let's take it from here. Welcome, Martin. Thanks for joining me.
No, you're welcome. Absolutely welcome.
Let's just catch us up. I mean, how did the World Gay Boxing Championships go? It was the first one. World Pride. Let's give us the scoop.
It was absolutely fantastic. Had a 2-day amateur boxing competition on the 17th and 18th of February. Had a trans man fight against a cisgender man and win a world title. Had two awesome drag queen MCs entertaining the crowd. Had Australia's newest national title, so Kate McLaren. She just won the Australian professional welterweight title. She was there showing visible support. Also had Gary St. Clair. He's a two-time world boxing champion and international Hall of Famer. He was there showing support. So it really was about breaking down the barriers, creating opportunities for the community, and just that 3.5 years of hard work over within 2 days.
Now that's fabulous, and yeah, it was really exciting to see it finally come to fruition after all the craziness, the pandemic, and everything that was going on. It was I know it was a lot of time and some uncertainty there, so it was nice to see it finally take place and be so successful.
Absolutely, it was obviously the world's first amateur boxing competition for the LGBTQ plus community and allies. And one of the key learnings was the importance of building relationships, particularly within the boxing, or recently within the sporting community. So Boxing Australia, within 2 weeks of me contacting them in 2020, their board voted to support the World Gay Boxing Championships. And they provided the institutional guidance, the support, everything that we needed. Boxing New South Wales, again, similar support. They provided all the judges and referees. Went one step further, they actually provided coaches on the day. So anybody who was traveling didn't have their coach there, had a coach in their corner. So when I talk about grassroots change, this was the grassroots change that was happening. A national sporting organisation, a state sporting organisation, supporting the LGBTQ plus community and allies to celebrate sport.
Yeah, that's really fantastic. And it's really nice to see, because that, state level and national level support really goes a long way to helping to validate not just, the work that we're doing, but also, the inclusion and diversity of LGBT people in sport, whether it's, LGBT specific events or, LGBT people joining, other teams and organizations and competing in other events as well. So that's really exciting to hear.
It's often, I think there's too much focus on athletes coming out at the elite level. I believe that creates far too much pressure on the individual. As soon as an individual comes out, it usually makes headline news. 99% of athletes won't get to the elite level, but how many athletes compete at that grassroots amateur level? They're doing the local soccer club, go and compete in a league, might be an LGBTQ plus league or a regular league. If we can get 99% or 100% of the 99% being supported, being able to celebrate who they are, remove the homophobia, transphobia, the hatred at that level, what difference that will make at all levels of sport.
Yeah. And I've noticed in the grassroots level is really where we've been able to see a lot of change and progress, not just for LGBT athletes and LGBT sports, but how grassroots inclusive sports like the World Gay Boxing Championships and other events have made a broader impact on our community and our society in terms of making progress and building awareness and education for LGBT inclusion, not just in sports, but in the overall, community around us.
Well, we know participatory sport is a key intervention strategy. It boosts our mental health, physical health, overall well-being. Studies show that LGBTQ people participate in sport at half the rate of the wider population. Now, imagine removing that barrier. You now have 50% more people from a community participating in sport. Nelson Mandela said sport has the ability to unify. So we have great people within the LGBTQ plus community. We have awesome allies enabling inclusion. I think from a community, the least we can do is thank them and get involved in sport or art, whatever activity. Don't let your sexuality or gender identity stop you from achieving your dream.
Indeed. And over the last like 3.5 years in organizing the World Gay Boxing Championships, you've been very proactive in reaching out and contacting not just like you said, the national governing body and the state governing body, but you know, athletes and organizers and professionals from all over the world to help find support and to promote the World Gay Boxing Championships. So that was really good to see.
One of the sad things, we didn't get many people. We had nobody come from overseas. Our boxers from Africa, unfortunately, weren't able to get a visa to come to Australia. So we would have had awesome boxers from Ghana, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, the Gambia, some who participated at the Olympic level and Commonwealth Games level, people from South America, from North America, from Asia and Europe, unfortunately weren't able to come. But a future event, hopefully in 2 years' time, we'll have a more diverse represented event for more of the LGBTQ plus global community. But I was able to get statements of support from 4 of the 5 major boxing organizations. I do want to particularly highlight the World Boxing Council. Mm-hmm. They provided a statement of support, videos of support. They provided visible allies from LGBTQ plus boxers and straight boxers over the last 3.5 years. Also, they issued a public statement last year saying they're proud to be an LGBTQ plus ally, support WGBC, but that statement wasn't performative. That statement talks about the bullying, harassment, and persecution of LGBTQ plus people in various countries throughout the world. So that was one step further than just a statement. It was actually a broad statement talking about human rights.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you mentioned, sport as kind of an intervention strategy in a lot of aspects is that being able to participate in a sport like boxing and other sports helps to build this confidence and build self-confidence and strength and resilience for especially LGBT people to be able to also stand up against bullying and hatred and discrimination and say, you know what, I have a right to exist. I have a right to be myself and, be able to stand up against that kind of stuff, which is, what we need to help us, be able to continue to be ourselves.
So in parallel to the championships, discreetly, WGBC has been conducting an anonymous global survey on the experience of LGBTQ plus people and allies in boxing. And we're calling it a snapshot survey because we have 26 responses from people in 15 countries, including Singapore, Japan, Cuba, Brazil, America, Ghana, Sierra Leone, Nigeria. So basically countries in all 6 inhabited continents. That snapshot survey, the results show that 92.3% believe homophobia is a problem in boxing, just almost 90% the same for transphobia.
Right.
Almost 40% have experienced some form of bullying, harassment, or homophobia where they train and compete. But over half of the people in the survey are out or would feel comfortable coming out, and almost 2/3 have visible allies or signs of visible support where they train and compete. So what that tells me is that in terms of LGBTQ plus and ally boxers, there are people all over the world participating in the sport, which is great for overall diversity. It also shows that there's visible support and LGBTQ plus boxers are able to find spaces where they are supported to train and compete. I believe it's consistent with other studies on homophobia and transphobia in sport. I'm encouraged with the findings that there's something to work with in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's very big. It's good to have, people, LGBT boxers have that outside support, within their own communities, within the boxing community as well, especially if it's allies, support, because we can't just do this ourselves. We really, need the support of our allies to help us to really get ourselves out there and be able to do what we're trying to do.
And I would say 95% of the respondents do not train in an LGBTQ plus boxing club or gym. So this is people who train in the standard boxing clubs or gyms throughout the world, which is a
Yeah.
really encouraging sign.
Yeah, and that's a big thing because in the past, in the LGBT sports community, boxing is still relatively very new. I mean, this is the first that you just hosted was the first World LGBT Boxing Championships.
Yeah.
It's not even a sport of the gay games right now. So there's no real like major LGBT boxing clubs or anything like that. There's no big league or organization for LGBT boxing right now, other than the work that you've already done. So yeah, a lot of athletes are going to have to find their ability to train in non LGBT specific spaces. So
I mean, there are LGBTQ boxing clubs. There's one in London, Copenhagen, there's several in America. There's New York. There's the Lesbian Fight Club. There's a club here in Australia. So there are spaces.
Mhm.
In my experience, those spaces might be in, I suppose, the close to the CBD, in the more the metropolitan areas.
Right.
When we look at certainly here within Australia, Sydney is the largest city. If you're not in the CBD of Sydney, you're out in some of the outer suburbs, it might take an hour to travel to get to that boxing club.
Yeah.
If you're in a outside the metropolitan area, a regional space, there's no way you can really drive 5 or 6 hours even getting on a flight to train. So being able to have a supportive space in all locations of Australia, all locations of the world, is really key.
Maybe now with 2 years to go, when you look at athletes from Africa and South America and Asia and other areas where they were maybe having some challenges to come this year, now they got a little more time to prepare and anticipate for it. So then hopefully we'll see that kind of representation even more so, because those countries, especially Africa, Asia, and South America, are not countries, continents. There's just in general, the LGBT representation in sports is very low. And that's one thing that's the LGBT sports movement has been criticized for in the past, is there hasn't been as much representation from athletes from Africa, from South America, from Asia. So then hopefully this will help bring more of that out and encourage people to come and participate.
Very encouraged by what's happening in Hong Kong with the gay games, the tournament that they're organizing. Very encouraged what's happening in Guadalajara.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at what's happening in Asia, Singapore, decriminalizing male homosexuality, look what's happening in India, talks of marriage equality. We are seeing social change happening in some spaces. And so
Yeah.
I always talk about the cascade effect or the ripple effect, where something happens in one location or in one community and it can influence outcomes in other communities. I mean, I love South America, very LGBTQ plus friendly countries by and large, huge sporting countries. I believe Guadalajara will have a lot of participants from Central and South America.
Yeah.
And the gay games will have many participants from Asia. So it's great to see LGBTQ plus sport not always happening in Europe, North America. I will say Australia, because we had obviously WorldPride sports and the gay games in 2002, but it's really good to see LGBTQ sport expanding globally.
Indeed. I mean, and I've really noticed South America really making an effort as well to expand its connection with the community, because I think in 2024 there are multiple like major LGBT sports championships happening in Argentina, Buenos Aires, and other areas like other countries around there. I know Igla is going to go down there. Igla, like you said, Gay Games in Guadalajara is really going to bring out a lot of those athletes as well. And then that was the whole point of the Hong Kong bid as well, was to say, hey, let's bring out the LGBT sports community in Asia. And I
Yeah,
know that they've had a lot of major struggles there, but it's really nice to see it still moving forward, and
yeah,
it's really been having a big impact and progress. I mean, that's what the Gay Games was all about in the first place. That's how it got started, was to say, hey, let's build up a community. If we can't exist in these other spaces, let's build a community where we can exist, and it's still doing that. And now in these other places where we need this kind of stuff.
well, we marched behind Hong Kong Gay Games in the Mardi Gras parade. So
Oh, cool.
it was such a pleasant surprise to march alongside our friends in the LGBTQ sporting community, and obviously our good friends at the Hong Kong Gay Games. And from that, it was just able to spark another conversation.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's really wonderful to hear. And I bet you that was so much fun too, because being able to march kind of with everybody together as the big united LGBT sports community must have been really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's good when it's beyond the club level, and
Mhm.
clubs do such an amazing job, and that's where people get the opportunity to participate. When you're able to make that change at the organizational level, that is a tougher task. In my experience, that has a greater outcome. An example is the support I've had from the World Boxing Council, Boxing Australia,
Mhm.
Boxing New South Wales. Conversations led to visible allyship and an event taking place which can now be replicated.
Indeed. And where can people connect with you and the World Gay Boxing Championships, on social media, websites?
So
Give us
yeah,
all
just
the
connect.
contact.
Our website is wgbc.org.au. On TikTok, we are at World Gay Box. On Instagram, we are WGB Champs, and Facebook, we're World Gay Boxing Championships.
Wonderful. And is there anything else you'd like to share?
That just, if you have a dream, go for it. It can happen.
Hell yeah.
Mind it.
Love it. Wonderful. Well, thank you.
No, you're welcome.